Hello and welcome to today's edition of State of the Nation, a live telecast of the nationwide protest. I am Uju Ejeye. It is day 7 of the protest, and organizers in Lagos have given notice that the protest will resume today after its suspension on Monday due to alleged attacks by hoodlums in the presence of security operatives.
And I am Terverr Tyav here in Abuja. It rained heavily in some parts of the city, and it is not certain if protesters will defy the rain and come out for the protests.
Meanwhile, organizers of the protest in Lagos have declared a 3-day mourning period to honor those who lost their lives during the protest across Nigeria.
The mourning period, according to the organizers of the protest, starts today, August 7, and ends on Friday, August 9.
The organizers say the decision to declare a mourning period was motivated by what they describe as persistent attacks on peaceful protesters by security agents and state-sponsored thugs.
But early on Tuesday, all the security agencies met in Abuja to re-strategize and explore ways of containing the protest from further escalating.
The service chiefs in their separate addresses after the meeting urged officers and men not to heed the call by subversive elements. They said, "We will defend the country's democracy and the government with the last drop of our blood," end quote.
General Christopher Musa, the chief of defense staff, assured Nigerians at a joint media briefing that the military and security agencies are only after those behind the call for undemocratic change of government.
In today's edition of the program, we shall be taking a look at matters arising from the protests since it began on August the 1st, and efforts being made by the security agencies to ensure that the protests do not escalate. Please stay with us, and we shall be back after this break.
The police and the military, indeed no other security agency involved in the management of this protest has deployed excessive use of force. Instead, what we had was attack on security agents during the protest. From our record, there was no shooting incident by the police. The police or the military did not use any live ammunition in the management of this protest.
But to join us together, all the security forces, to make Nigeria better. We want to assure everybody on this side that we are fully committed. We love Nigeria, we love the country. We are mindful of the fact that we are being paid, we are being equipped, and money is generated from the country. And so we are duty bound to protect the country. We are only after those that are against the state, not those that are innocent. So we want to make that very clear. We continue to work together as a team to support Mr. President in achieving his mandate.
Nobody should be asked whether or not this is pre-existing subversion or whether it is with us. It's with us. And what should security organizations do? Before now, was there an intelligence? Yes. Now, is there an intelligence? Yes. Were actions taken? Democracy is not the same thing as dictatorship. In democracy, you follow procedures.
I want to assure you members of the media, Nigerians, that the Nigerian army is the people's army. As the chief of army staff, my eyes are on the dashboard. So I'm more concerned about bringing our country to a state of sustainable peace and security. And in doing that, I want to state that attention has not been diverted from our main operational commitment.
As part of our constitutional responsibility, which is protection of the sovereignty of this country and provision of aid to civil authority, we are ready and we stand firm and resolute to provide the needed assistance to the Nigerian police in order to ensure that law and order
is restored in all parts of this country where these violent protests have started. We will not renege in our responsibility, and we are ready to do it with the last drop of our blood.
And make it worse. So let us go back, desist from this protest, desist from perpetrating violence and disorder and chaos. Let us go back and give this a chance and allow the federal government to implement the policies that will eventually address all these grievances and complaints. The armed forces and all the president has done is to reduce the to cushion the effects of the cost inflation by suspending customs duties and taxes on imported food items for a period of time. We believe that when this is implemented, it will help to bring down the prices of food items in the market. Now, Nigeria Customs is committed to the implementation of this particular fiscal policies.
Sponsors, some of these people who are actually in diaspora, we have a number of them who are actually instigating this mayhem that we're seeing right now. What we've done is we've had them on our watch list, and they've been watch listed. We have them on our radars, and we're making sure that any attempt they make to come into the country, will notify the necessary authority. And we're working closely, of course, with the NIA and the DSS, of course, and the NSA's office, so that all those we have in diaspora that are actually trying to subvert the authority of this nation, they are in our radars. We have them watch listed, and any attempts they make to come into the country will be notified, and we'll also know what to do. We'll notify the necessary authority.
All over the Federation, we have also made some arrests of especially those who are trying to attack or who have attacked critical national assets of government and infrastructure. And we have seen that really there's no, if you trace the history of protests in the country, you will have seen that there's no protest that has been done successfully, without some form of violence or the other. And this one is really not a protest from what we have seen. There are reports and there are agitations of a regime change, and that is treasonable in nature.
The nation's service chiefs addressing Nigerians after their meeting yesterday, and of course, talking tough, that's their call, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But again, there were some things that they dabbled in that some Nigerians believe is not really in their place, like trying to tell the citizens how to stage peaceful protests. Of course, the troublemakers they can always deal with. Anyway, let's welcome our guests this morning. They will be reacting to some of the things said by the service chiefs, and of course, other matters arising from this protest in the last 7 days. So let me welcome Ralph Mosu, the National Chairman, African Democratic Congress, ADC. You're welcome to our studio here and to this program. Chima Christian, Executive Director, African Mourning Center for Public Policy and Good Governance. And we are talking about ending bad governance. You're welcome. And two persons will be joining us via Zoom. That's Victor Terverr of Civil Society Organization. He will be joining us via Zoom. Vince Onyekwelu, former British police officer, would also be joining us via Zoom. All right, that's our respondents for this morning. I would like to start with you, Chima. What will be your reaction? I'm sure you listened attentively to the briefs by the service chiefs.
Well, let me start with that of the two Chief of Army Staff and that of Defense Staff. They've restated their commitments to upholding democracy in Nigeria. And with resurgence of coup d'etat in Africa over the past 3.5 years, I think that reassurance is more than sufficient. But again, I will be hoping that they are also looking down the radar to be sure that at the top level they might be tight, but down there to be sure that Nigeria's democracy is sustained. And the second thing you want to take out is the that statement by Mrs. Nandap, the controller of immigration. I was listening to see where she derived such authorities from, and I won't claim that I have the knowledge of all the laws of Nigeria. But then in my years of good governance practice, I've not come across any law that talks about what she's talking about. And it is not in her place, if you ask me, to start making laws. If indeed she wants such powers to begin to watch list Nigerians for sponsoring peaceful protests, then she has to approach the National Assembly with laws, and then the processes should be made. Because I don't think there is any law that empowers her organization, that of the immigration, to put Nigerians on watch lists by merely sponsoring peaceful protesters. Except, of course, if I've seen, of course, the Nigerian Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act. But then, if they're going to declare peaceful protesters as terrorists, the protocols are well laid out that the government must follow before they could be declared terrorist organizations. And that is only when you've declared them that you can now contact the NFIU to begin to put freezes on people's accounts. But whereas they've not been declared terrorists, I don't think that the government is right in claiming or threatening that people who are sponsoring peaceful protesters will be dealt with untouched down in Nigeria.
Yeah, if you listen to, I think it was the Chief of Defense Staff, just like you also mentioned, who said they are going after those sponsoring and the looters and not the peaceful protesters. So I'm sure perhaps even in this instance, maybe those sponsoring this flag issue, and all of that. But the national chairman, ADC, Raf Nwosu, your party, there appears to be a division within the political class. Those outside government are in support of the protest. Those outside, those in government appear to be, say, look, let's have an end or let there be no protests. Take, for instance, the former vice president, his tweet and what the presidency was reacting to yesterday. Accusing him of supporting looters just because he said, the police and the other security agencies should not use lethal force against those on the streets. Why is there no consensus, the way we've seen in London, in the US and other places, in Manchester, in respect of, such uprising, even in Bangladesh, where there seems to have been some consensus. Yesterday, the political groups, NGOs, students coming together to name one man, as the interim leader, the Nobel Peace Laureate.
Thank you very much, Terverr. I want to, first of all, looking at this, the security and the intelligence architecture we have by the number of persons who just spoke, and they spoke very, very well. You start to wonder, why do we have the leakages that we have in the country? What has caused the protest? What is causing problem in Nigeria is, one, leadership challenge. You are looking at the protesters who are more or less coming out to say, the country is biting us. There's hunger, there's poverty. The country is going down. And you almost the entire security architecture is focusing on them. Focus on the cause. Our security, I wish that the way they are looking at the Nigerian people to talk boldly, that they are also able to look at the political leaders. Say, you are causing tension. I tell you something. When Bola Tinubu took over power, on that very first day, he made a very careless statement.
He said it was a bold statement.
He made a very careless, and I consider it very irresponsible. When you are going to take charge of 230 million persons, their life is in your hand, and without thinking, without consulting the cabinet, without consulting the Nigerian people, without referring to policies on ground, on that very first day, you say you are increasing one basic commodity by 500%. You put fire in the house. He put fire in the house. And that fire will be it will take time to quench if it doesn't burn down this house. And another thing could have happened. The same president, something, I think, was it the coup d'etat that happened in Niger, without settling down, started giving authoritative statement and wanted to push the same military people into action. We are going to stop you by force. But the military were more discerning. I'm sure that they went into the house and said, Mr. President, this is not the way. Otherwise, you could have caused problem in Nigeria, and then you could have at the same time sent the Nigerian military to war. Very reckless. And by the time you look at it from any aspect of leadership, political, business, etc., it's a failure. It's what is causing the crisis. So I wish that our intelligent men and women, the military, security forces, they are good men. I've interacted with these persons one-on-one. You have the best schooled persons in the armed forces, in the different security and intelligence agencies. These are well-schooled, very intelligent. They can compete at global level. But here, the cluelessness of our politicians reduce them to almost, that's appearing as if they don't know what they're doing. But I wish that the intelligence that are bound there, they can look at the commander-in-chief at different times to say, okay, we are dealing with 230 million Nigerians. We have to do things differently.
All right, sir, we have Vince Onyekwelu, former British police officer, security expert, of course, on Zoom. Vince, you've been following the program. Good morning. You've been following the program and the protests. Now, in Lagos State, that was regarded as a hotbed. We find that the security agencies, particularly the police, have been able to maintain law and order so far. While unexpectedly in Abuja, we have seen some not so palatable reactions by the security agencies. We have seen people manhandled, including our crew, 3 teams from here. Now, how would you rate the handling by security agencies? And of course, the broadcast yesterday by the security chiefs.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning, Nigerians. I will come up with 3 things, first of all. If you can just compare the level of professionalism showed by the CP of police in Lagos State, when he put a human touch, you will see him talking to the protesters at Ojota, if I'm correct, and you can see he's a spokesperson of the Lagos Police Command right there with him, trying to interact, trying to assure the protesters, trying to guarantee them of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. You can even hear some of the protesters asking the CP of Lagos State how safe they are, that there are physical presence of thugs coming after them. And the CP of Lagos State was seen there in those videos, reassuring them that once you stay inside here, I'm going to be here with you from morning till late in the evening to assure you of your security. That is professionalism. Now, when you go across the other parts of Nigeria, where you see a young boy shot dead by allegedly the Nigerian military, where we've seen people shot dead by allegedly the Nigerian police, and where you see journalists that are professionals in their field are being bullied, mishandled, that is unacceptable. Number 2, we can also ask ourselves, what are men carrying live ammunitions and dangerous weapons, being the Nigerian military or the police, being seen at sites of peaceful protest? There is no need for you to carry AK-47s or other dangerous weapons to such sites. You will be as a backup. When there's a need for your physical presence to be seen, it's just a radio call away 2, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, you are there. But once you carry these dangerous weapons to peaceful protesters, carrying placards, shouting that there is hunger in the land, listen, a hungry man is an angry man. And if you played a role in making somebody to be hungry, you are also part of the sponsors of the protest. So the presence of those dangerous weapons by policemen or military men are not wise. Number 3, and the last one, utterances, the media broadcast of Mr. President. I do not blame Mr. President. I respect him. I think he's a better leader than the immediate past president of Nigeria. But I blame his media guides, the likes of Anjuri Ngalale, Bayo Onanoga. They did not script that speech smartly. That speech didn't have most of the concerns of the protesters. Look at what's happening in the UK. There is protest in the UK. There's protest in Bangladesh, in Kenya. Look at the number of people killed in Kenya compared to Nigeria of 6 days protest. Look at the number of people killed in Bangladesh compared to Nigeria. Look at the number of people killed in the UK compared to Nigeria. You will see police officers coming with their shields, headgears, with their plastic shields to protect themselves from stones. But in Nigeria, I did not see one group of police officers coming to manage a public disorder with shields, with headgears. I see them wearing their normal berets, tying red rag that makes them look like people that are crazy. Is that the best you can tie red rags? It doesn't look professional. This is 2024. So I think we need to help our police more to train them on managing public disorder. It's not about looking like gangsters. So wear kafir. You know what is kafir? It's an Arabic tie. People tie on their neck because of dust in the desert region of the Arab nations. Some tie it on their head. What is that doing in the uniform of a Nigerian police officer or military officers? So I think they need to go back to the basics. They do not understand how to manage public disorder. What they are doing is to escalate it.
It appears, Vince, that it's the security report only that the president is receiving. Perhaps that's why he and others are acting only on that. Where should he be getting other information in respect of maybe the demands of the protesters, with the situation in the polity, and all of that? It appears attention has moved now from the demands, the hunger, the hardship that took people to the streets, to carrying of Russian flags, looting, and all of that. That's the only thing the security chief, the service and security chiefs spoke about yesterday. Nobody else is addressing the concerns of Nigerians, and it appears if this is not done, then many are saying, look, it may be even a threat to the democracy we are talking.
Thank you so much. I picked up 2 or 3 things from what you said. At number 1, you need to understand the person of arrogance in leadership. Growing up in England, we were taught that if you're a professional, if you're very confident, you must have a touch of arrogance in your disclosure. And you will not see that lacking in the leadership of Nigeria. But they don't understand that arrogance in leadership has red lines where you don't cross. So basically, when Mr. President was talking to Nigerians on Sunday, you can see that aura of arrogance, that aura of confidence. That aura is, I do it the way I feel it's right to do. Then when it comes about communication, learning what's happening in Nigeria, sir, it's very simple. Mr. President supposedly is supposed to follow news each morning, not just relying on what your aides are saying to you. Tune into local news, national news, AIT, and other news channels to learn directly what is going on. If you do that every 1 hour every morning, it wouldn't destroy you. But it makes you to have a basic interaction of what's happening in the country. Choose 1 or 2 TV stations, 1 or 2 radio stations that you trust, that are very professional. You can use 1 hour each morning to have an idea, because don't forget, you are a servant of the people. You are not an emperor. You are not a king. We gave you a job to serve us, not for us to serve you. That number 3, you look at the issue of the so-called shenanigans about Russian flags. I think, with all due respect, a level of our people in power are illiterate. They are not very well informed about international flags. As a former British police officer, we understand flags. I'm not sure there's any word flag you can show me now. I cannot name the country that it belongs to. We even go further to read holy books of different religious groups. So you cannot tell me what is not in your holy books. Look at the flags of Russia. The similarity between the so-called Russian flag is so close to the military flag of Nigeria. The Russian flag has 3 stripes. The same thing with the Nigerian military flag. The difference is the Nigerian military flag has red on the top, blue in the middle, and white at the bottom, while the Russian flag has white at the top, blue, the same blue in the middle, and red at the bottom. So illiterate underage children that are not experienced could mistakenly turn it across upside down. And they were shouting, "Soldier Mukeyi, soldier Mukeyi." This and I was like word that says soldiers we want. So them carrying what you are calling Russian flags, but they are shouting soldier Mukeyi, could mean that what they thought they were carrying, but carried upside down, was the Nigerian military flag. And I think it's very wrong for the military chiefs to just come in and talk about treason. Listen, why have they not charged the Nigerian Naira with an Arabic inscription for treason? Because the CBN knew that no local government area, no Nigerian community or ethnicity speak Arabic. So why do we have Arabic languages in Nigerian Naira? Is that not treasonable? Why do we allow Palestinian flags, Israeli flags, American flags, British flags to be flown in schools in Nigeria? Go to many schools. You have American flags flying there, Israeli flags there, Palestinian flags, even Hamas flags flying there. Why haven't they stopped it? Many transporters, drivers, put Brazil flags on their dashboard, American flags on their dashboard. Is that also treason? I think what the military has done unknowingly is to send signals to the BRICS nations, Russia and China especially, that Nigeria is potential for the taking. Because Russia has come out to say that we are not involved in this. But as a professional nation, as a world power, they will be saying, oh, so we have such influence in Nigeria. We have such followers in Nigeria. Okay, let's go back to our drawing board to see what we can do about this. They have now made this to become a big issue that China and Russia can even think of such sponsorship, because these kids were not sponsored by any foreign powers. I have been in protest front lines. When you see a sponsored protest by a world power, you will see the difference, the dynamism. But these kids were underaged. You want to charge for treason, underage, under 18, illiterate, that could potentially have put the Nigerian military flag upside down. So I think a lot has to be gone back to the drawing board. The media of Mr. President failed him big time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll get back to you, Vince, but let me ask Chima. Vince has certainly raised some food for thought, particularly with regard to the flag. In fact, I could never relate that to the military flag in Nigeria. What do you make of his submissions?
Well, I think his arguments were quite germane. And then the question is this. There was a time Nigeria was ranked the happiest nation in the world. And then if you look at Nigeria, not many people are interested in civic participation. And then the question must be asked now, why people who were hitherto unbothered with governance are now actively interested in how they are governed? I believe that Nigerians are fed up with hunger. And I also believe that our leaders are not listening.
Did you say fed up?
Yes, we are fed up with hunger.
They're fed up with hunger, so they want the hunger to end.
Yes, and I do believe that our leaders are not listening. Because if indeed they are listening, you will see it from their responses. None of them have spoken to the issues being debated. They are not talking to the protesters. They're not listening. They are just quick to tag this protest to a riot. They just want to clamp it down. And it seems as if our security officers have now gone into an overdrive of regime protection. They're not interested in protecting Nigerians, but they're interested in protecting the regime. So I'll leave that aside and then focus on something that I would really love to talk about, which is that people have died during this protest. And then it's quite painful that people who are protesting hunger are now meeting untimely deaths while they're protesting for better. And then I want to sympathize with families who have lost loved ones. But then it also shows now how Nigerians treat its citizens, right? Because you can't go from caring to killing in one day because people are protesting. You look at nations that were caring for their citizens, and when their citizens protest, you see how they respond. When you see a nation that brutally murders its citizens, then the same thing is the way they respond to protest. For instance, if you look at any general hospital or any tertiary institution, any tertiary hospital in Nigeria today, you go there and study them for 1 week and see the number of needless deaths that occur there daily due to lack of basic supplies, medical supplies, sometimes lack of manpower, sometimes negligence, sometimes lack of... And so you see how Nigerians deal with their citizens. So the only thing now is that the killings on the protest ground are televised. The killings that happen due to kidnapping, killings that happen due to hunger, the killings that happen even till today. Trucks still fall off Ojelaba Bridge in Lagos. So all of those things show you that the protest is now an opportunity for the world to see how Nigeria treats Nigerians.
Indeed, the protest is part of democracy. It's guaranteed by the Constitution. And what some of us perhaps will be looking at is how can the government, how can the country seize this opportunity, you know, to deepen the democracy? Instead of just putting out protests, the way the security people and the government itself is driving towards, let there be no protest, just go back home and all of that. How can we turn this around to deepen our democracy? The dialogue the president said he's ready for, how can that proceed? Because the fears are that if this protest is put out, tomorrow, maybe the citizens may not have the courage to come out and say, look, we don't want this, we don't want that. They will say, oh, when they did during the end ban governance, end hunger, what happened? Nothing came out of it. And again, that citizenship that we're talking about will be eroding, People will no longer be interested in the system, in the democracy and all of that. But how do we sustain that interest in democracy?
I think I will support the argument of Chief Ralph Nwosu here. I believe that the political class has erroneously analyzed the situation. Immediately after EndSARS protests in Nigeria, I wrote that a time will come where the soldiers' bullets will not be enough to deter Nigerians from protesting. If that time is not now, it's near, right? Because people will get frustrated to the point that if you are killing them, you're doing them a favor. And that time is coming. And then to manage 220 million hungry and frustrated people is not quite an easy task. And that's why you must have to think clearly about these issues. But then you see the way they respond. They don't even understand the egregiousness of the issues at hand. Because I think it was Chesterton, either G.K. Chesterton or Lippmann, who was arguing that leadership at the political level puts you in a responsibility, in a position where you take responsibility and enormous responsibility over a large swath of people. But in fact, it also secludes you from the people, that you don't have the everyday lived reality of the people. And I think that's what is happening now, that the people we have elected, or maybe they elected themselves into positions of authority, are now so different and so distant from the people they purport to be leading. And that's why you see that we're speaking different languages, unable to hear us completely. And by the way, if they are unable to hear us, I don't think that we should be able to also hear them. So we're speaking two different languages. We want bad governance to end. We want hunger to end. And think they're saying that they want it to continue. And then it's now left for who will end up having
who will blink first. Chief Raf.
Yes, Chief Raf. I mean, the fact that the main issues raised have been relegated to the background, like Chima pointed out, and Terverr, and we are now looking at the flag. I think Vince also pointed that out. We're no longer addressing the hunger that is very, very rife in our midst. Even you and I know that some of the things we used to eat, even at our level, we can no longer eat like before. If you have to eat it once in a while to remind yourself that, yes, you know the taste of this thing. How do we focus on making Nigeria better and removing hunger from the land?
Thank you. I think part of the problem we face now is the politicians are the big problem, which unfortunately, I happen to be one. But then we have different kind of politicians. I've been consistent in my politics. For the last 20 years, I've been talking about nation building in politics. But politicians are the big problem. Unfortunately, even without the incumbent not served out the first 1 year, his men are already talking about 2027. And then you look all around you, you discover there's only one man and one party running for 2027. Because I had expected when the masses came out the way they have come out, the opposition leaders would have been bold enough to stand with them thoroughly. Because, it's a situation like we have opportunists, wanting to grab power. We've watched a lot of video. Nowadays, apart from the TVs, the social media, Ait'S, they are supplying Nigerians with different things. And you saw, we've had protests 2014, 2018, and so on and so forth. So, some of the opposition leaders then were on the forefront. They didn't start it, but the moment they see that the Nigerians are beginning to get bold and to speak, they come out. There's a price you pay. At this level, occasionally, you talked about our party, there's parties having divergent tones and so on. Listen, at this time and this age, that I'm standing strong on transformation of Nigeria, I don't care if a bullet hits me. I don't care if the hitmen of any person who want to suppress my voice. Death is also a prize. And our politicians, the opposition leaders, should come out and speak up. In that way, the people in government may, because from the president's response, you see that what is happening in the street, he doesn't see them as very, very threatening to his office. But by the time the opposition leaders, people who want to who are looking to becoming president, becoming, this thing at any time, show leadership, stand up with the people, condemn what is wrong, and so on. Then I think there will be strong need for dialogue where we're going. We must have dialogue. And this dialogue, if I were to advise Mr. President now, since he seems to be the only person already running for 2027, our country needs to be safe first. We have 19 political parties. However way you see them, we need to have that dialogue. Because today,
dialogue with the people or with the political parties?
With the political parties. To say, come, this thing is...
Because there are some Nigerians who are not registered members of parties.
Yes.
So who will listen to their voice?
No, I say, the dissonance you have now, the biggest problem is coming from politicians.
Okay.
And these politicians are members of political parties.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Therefore, the political parties, if our democracy must go on, and politicians must show that they are ready to protect that democracy as much as civil liberties, civil societies, organizations like my good brother here and others are working hard to hold together our democracy, including the military chiefs. They say, come, we are going to work with you even in the circumstance of even losing our lives to maintain your democracy. Then, for me, our political leaders, the political leaders from all the parties need to sit down to say, come, we are not doing good to the ecosystem of democracy.
Shouldn't that charge be led by IPAC?
IPAC is trying, as a matter of fact, by tomorrow, IPAC is holding a round table to do that. But once people get elected, they don't even respect their political party. They don't respect the IPAC as an organization. However, we've empowered the chairman of IPAC now to start taking action. Because otherwise, the system will fail. And if democracy fails, all the parties are gone. The political institutions are gone. The shenanigans will stop.
But you know that Nigerians do not have confidence in politicians.
Yes.
It's like the same things that led to military interruptions, and that the G7, the G18, and the G34 sought to address in the return, to democratic rule. Those mistakes are beginning to pop up, but of course, this time there's no room for the military. We know that.
I don't know. I can't say how sure all of us are, but the House, the people who seem to be causing the disorganization in the system, must sit together. And Mr. President, occasionally people look around and say, oh, he's been the most successful politician, put up his strategy. We were all in the trenches from 1990, working to see that the military, they get out. And all of a sudden, for the last 25 years, as a matter of fact, this person born in by 1999, when Obasanjo took over power, by now, he's 25. Sure. He can contest to become anything in the country. And what have we taught them? What have we mentored them? Thuggery, corruption, this shenanigans going on?
Well, let me talk to Vince, who is still with us via Zoom. Vince, you can see the issues being raised about the failings of our politicians, why the people no longer have confidence in our politicians because of the seeming insensitivity, all the things going on, why the people are wallowing in poverty, Nigeria being declared the poverty capital of the world in the face of so much resources. Very, very shameful development. Our politicians are busy whining and dining. Some of them even said, oh, why the people are protesting? They'll be somewhere eating. Very, very insensitive comment there. Vince, how would you react?
Thank you so much for that. A lot of issues about national security has to do a lot with public mass communication and how the public see you as a leader. That was why I courageously called out the failures of the media team of Mr. President, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, and the other gentleman, Anjuri Ngalale, who was once with Channels TV. Now, the masses are not feeling Mr. President. The masses have long lost hope in Mr. President. The security agencies on their own are no longer patriotic to the nation. They are no longer patriotic to the constitution of the nation. They are only loyal to where their less incomes of money comes in. Because if the security chiefs are serious, currently, a Nigerian competent court of law has ordered for the arrest of the immediate past governor of Kogi State. And he's hiding inside the government lodge in Kogi State. And the military, the DSS, the police are pretending that they are not aware that this man is wanted by a competent court of jurisdiction and is hidden inside Lord Lugard's house in Kogi State. And nobody is saying nothing. Now you come out and start attacking little boys that have lost hope, that cannot go to school, that are not sure of their next source of food or income. Listen, many of us are protesters, although there are different types of protesters. Some may be doing it online, some could be on television, some could be on television, some could be on streets, some could be in their homes in the US or anywhere. But all I'm saying that the nation needs more help. Example, somebody raised the issue about our PMS. That PMS is one of the things that Mr. President can reduce the price of petrol today, and there will be a change in Nigeria, because many of our lives hover around the price of fuel. Transportation industry hover around the price of fuel. Businesses rely on fuel to power their generator because you cannot probably pay the price of electricity or there's no power in your businesses. So if the government reduces the price of fuel today, food prices will potentially come down, but they are not listening. So in conclusion, what is going on in Nigeria is preventable. The leadership see themselves as a cartel, and they've gotten the security agencies in their pockets. So that's why you see most security agencies will give Thanksgiving if posted to certain states in Nigeria. Many commissioners, army commanders love to be posted to like Lagos State. If you got CP of Lagos State, you're done, you're blessed. Why is that? I don't know. Rivers State. Many of the security agencies prefer to work for the VIPs, knowing that they will have extra more than going to serve the masses. How many are we in the Nigerian security industries? Less than 1 million. If you bring in the army, the navy, the air force, the police, the DSS, even the custom, the immigration, the NCDC, all of them are less than 1 million in number. They cannot even deal with Zaria population. They cannot deal with Kano population, let alone the population of Nigeria as a whole. So I think we should not allow this to drag further. Thank you. Go on. I hear you.
Yes, Vince. Some may not agree with you completely when you mentioned just Ajuri Ngilale and Bayo Nanuga. They speak for the president. This is a matter that involves the Nigerian government. We have a Minister of Information. We have the National Orientation Agency. We have several of those agencies, you know, even the other ministers that can also engage with the Nigerian people, you know, and all of that. But you are a former British police officer. So can you help us, for instance, that when there are protests on the streets of London, is it just deployment of police to contain it? Are there other discussions or dialogue that goes on, you know, to, you know, address those issues, or is just deploying the police, deploying the, let me not say army, deploying the police, you know, the dogs,
to maintain
the peace and all of that? Are there other things that happen behind the scene, discussions, you know, that puts it, because it appears in Nigeria that's what the only thing we are doing. We are putting the security, the police there, stop this protest. No other thing appears to be happening. So in other climes, what happens beyond just putting police people against protesters?
Thank you for that question. Number one, as a former Metropolitan Police officer, we have proactively set up systems knowing that public disorders could happen anytime. One of those systems we've set up is, for example, let me use Nigeria for example. Let's say Adeniran Ogunsanya Street in Lagos, which is very popular to everybody. We've already mapped out all the whole egresses and ingresses that vehicular movement can come in or leave. So beforehand, we know all the whole exits and entrances by vehicle. Beforehand, we all know the exits and entrances by what they call Okada or tricycles, even human movement. So in the course of a public disorder in this area, we know where to walk on. We know where to take off. We know where to allow open. Then beforehand, we've encouraged shopkeepers to also install front shop cameras, which we try to subsidize to make it cheaper for them, because most information, most street crimes happens in the street, and these shop cameras can capture so much evidence for us. We also install our own cameras at street junctions knowing that for a vehicle or bicycle or group of young boys to run from point A to point B, they are going to pass this particular road. We install our own cameras. We do not take glory in killing any evidence, unlike in Nigeria, where you see security agents killing a suspected criminal. Because when you kill, you've lost loads of evidence that you can be able to use to find the root cause of the sponsors, those behind them. But in Nigeria, they are rushed to say, kill him off, shoot him, he's gone. It has happened to me. So beforehand, we have worked proactively on how to manage a situation when it happens. We also deploy our drones. We also have our horses, where our security men have a face-to-face training with the horses, because you don't walk on the wrong side of a horse during a protest. The same way you don't walk on the wrong side of a dog handler during a protest. If you do that, you get bitten by the dog, or you get kicked by the horse, because the horse doesn't know you. You have to keep the safe distance between you and the horse rider or the dog handler. So we put so many resources to train our men. Our men have headgears to protect them from stones. They have shields. They have batons. Then they have armor vest to protect their thorax from any kind of knife stab or gunshot or stone injury. So these men actually go out there and they know that we are working to protect them, to secure them. But in Nigeria, they still go out to this protest with their normal berets. You know how soft a beret is. Look at Mr. CP of Lagos State when he was giving his discussion at Ojota. You could see his headgear protected, but look at the men around him, all wearing berets.
Is the most important police officer.
Vince, let's look at what about when you're dealing with a violent crowd, when a protest becomes violent? How do you handle that?
Thank you. Before you go into a protest as police officers, obviously, army officers should never, ever go to a public protest. They are not trained. I think it's illegal for army officers to go there, except the police personally invite them to come. And most times the military come to a protest. They don't come with their firearms. The military will step in. Maybe if the buses are not moving, they will drive the buses to move non-participating members of the masses to point A to point B. The military come on board. If there is no water, they bring water tanks and drive their water tanks to supply water to the masses. The military deliver the post, people's homes. So the military come here to fill the gap. If there's a local hospital that was damaged, they bring their nurses and their doctors to fill the gap. They come to support the system, not to come and talk about treason or firearms. And then, how do you get away from a protest? It depends on training. The way I was trained is, before you go into a protest, you must have sent undercover agents to go and analyze what's going on. They will look at people. Are they carrying hammers? Are they carrying 2x2 wood? Are they irons? Are they carrying guns? Then they will give you updates, so you know how to approach. Then before you approach, you must make sure that your exit door is open. So if you're approaching a protest in the front of National Stadium in Lagos, for example, and if you're coming from Ojuelegba, you need to ask yourself, is my bag to get back to Ojuelegba free? You need to have men that will protect your exit avenue. If you're coming from Adeni Ogunsoya, you need to make sure your back is exposed. Now, I saw a video where police officers we are being chased by a mob in this current protest, if I'm correct, and they were running inside their lorry, and the lorry driver was not moving the lorry. Those inside the lorry, we are safe in the front, but all those officers that were inside the truck section of the lorry, we are dangerously exposed to missiles falling to them. So before you exit, you're supposed to keep men that will keep the protesters at bay, so your men can deploy with quickness into the lorries. When they deploy, they set off from the lorry to defend you that are still defending them, so you can be able to get back into the lorry. It's more like, it's not military, but it's a professional exit strategy. You don't just run inside a vehicle and now the motor is not starting, maybe because of ignition problem, alternator problem, battery problem, mechanical problem, and people are getting missiles. It's discouraging. So there must be egress strategy and exit strategy, with undercover agents being there wearing mufti out of the protesters, getting you some local information.
I guess all of these are lessons the police would have to take for if there will be any other protest. If there's any other protest in the future, what they will do. For instance, we didn't see use of water cannons, for instance. So we hope that they will pick these lessons.
Just before you go up, listen. It's not like they don't know what they should do. It's like they don't care. They see the shortcut of going with AK-47 as a quicker option to save them cost. After this protest, they will do nothing because they know that once they kill 10 people, 20 people, people will go back home. They see killing as the shortcut to saving them to invest in training and how to manage public disorder. So they see the killing because when they kill people, nobody does anything. The government does anything. The young boy that was shot by the soldiers 2 days ago or yesterday, what's going to happen? Buried, done and dusted.
The police have come out to deny that video incident in Azari in Bauchi State. They've come out to deny it. By the way, the Bauchi State government has just relaxed the 24-hour curfew in Katagum local government area of Bauchi State, where it's been relaxing about 6 hours or so. Chima, moving forward, we're already in this fix. We're already in the protest. We're already in the what some call crossroads and all of that. The dialogue. What should be the country's, movement, exit point from where we are today? The president said he's ready to dialogue. He's ready to, but it appears the protesters are not. They said the president is not sincere and all of that. How do we get these two groups?
To agree
to talk. Should the state governors be intervening? Should the state governors go and talk to the protesters in their respective states, come forward to maybe to the National Economic Council or to a security meeting with the president? How should we get out of this? How will the country get out of this?
The question you always keep in mind is who sponsored the protest, and that's the question that the service chiefs are not answering. I think that the chief sponsor of the protest is hunger, right? Is the chief sponsor of the protest, that's hunger. And then the president knows what to do to address it. Nigeria, if they see this as an emergency, for instance, Nigeria has grain reserves. You can open it up because...
They are empty. They are empty.
You now say
that's what we're importing.
Then you can also... How many hours, how many days...
But there are also some Nigerians who said when they say hunger, you give rice. When they say hunger, you say you release rice.
Apart from grains,
what else?
You can, for instance, look at the list of the protesters, look at the demands. Which ones can we do? I don't understand. I do understand all the economic analysis relating to whether the subsidy is sustainable and all of those things. But for the time being, even if you're going to step it down for another 1 year, 1 year and a half, that is something that's a quick win to show good faith, to show the protesters that you are willing to dialogue. Give them something. If after 7 days, after 10 days, after so many lives lost, you're not getting out anything from the presidency, and you're talking about dialogue, give us 2 out of the 10 demands or 12 demands. Give 2, then now say, can we talk about the other 8? Let's give us time. So you're not doing anything. You're not even listening. And then I think that the dialogue is, the president has all it takes to initiate the dialogue. And this is my only point of departure from my dear brother Vincent, where he chooses to blame the president's handlers. I think the president is the person we elected. We don't know about all his handlers. The president was the person that read the speech. Whether it was written by Bayo Onanuga or by Agelala, I don't know. Who read the speech is who we know. And it was him. It was him who read the speech. So whether it was his speechwriter, he was supposed to dictate what they are supposed to write and give back to him. So if he looked at all our demands, and he looked at the speech presented to him, and he saw it fit to go on live television to address Nigerians in that condescending manner, well, we can only wish him the best of luck.
So you are saying that he must at least give Nigerians something to make them repose trust in him out of all of this?
I believe that the president has to buy time. And how to buy time is to show Nigerians good faith. I believe that Nigerians are running out of patience. For Nigerians, I don't think that maybe you need to have maybe one semester in political science or any social science at all for you to understand what has happened to Nigerians to the point of coming out to the streets. Nigerians are not people who are... These people protest are people who can't even go to pick up PVCs. These are people who play football on Sunday, now shut down their businesses for 10 days to protest. You need to see what has happened to them. You need to see the level of provocation. You need to see the level of anger. You need to see the level of hunger and frustration. And that, in fact, I think that the most damage has been to hope. That there is no exits from this. Is this what is going to happen for the next 4 years? Is this what is going to happen for the next 8 years? People who are inviting the military to come in, there is something that is worrying them. Can we remove this man through democratic means? Can we, even if we're not able to, can we frighten them to the point of asking questions? What do you need? If the government is afraid of the people, there is no other sovereignty. You know, in politics, there is no absolute sovereignty. There's none. When you talk about sovereignty, the government should account to the people. But wherein the government has become an absolute sovereignty unto itself. To say that we don't listen to the people, we don't care what you think. And the people feel, look, we've written articles on Twitter, nothing. We've gone to TV, nothing. We've done this, nothing. We've gone to the polls, nothing. There is nothing left for the people to do other than to start protesting. And then the best response of the government is what you are seeing and what we are reporting today. I believe that the people in authority should think about what really went wrong and how we came to this point and see what is really happening. If they don't see it, if they see it as mere protesters coming out after 10 days, they'll go back. Then what I'm seeing from where I sit is quite different from what they are seeing from maybe where they sit.
Mosu, he just said something that provokes very deep thought. Is this what we are going to see in the next 4 years? And that Nigerians are somewhat in a state of hopelessness right now, if I understand what you said, Chima.
Yes.
Because the presidency or the leaders are not giving them anything to hold on, even in this face of the harsh reality. Do you also see that? And then Terverr asked a question which I believe still needs more answers. What mechanism should be adopted when we talk about dialogue?
Okay. Now, thank you, Joe. You know, you're talking about 4 years, but some politicians, especially around the APC stuff, are not talking about 4 years. They're talking about 8 years. That they have the presidency and the sovereignty of Nigeria in their palms. Let me tell you something. One of the conversations we had before Asiwaju succeeded in becoming president was that some people were concerned. They said if this man was strong enough to have held Lagos,
the Southwest even, not just Lagos.
Held Lagos for 20-something years, changing the governors the way he wanted. How can they, I mean, this conversation before the election, how can, if this man gets to become president of Nigeria, he may use the same mechanism, because Lagos is more than 5 countries in West Africa. That he may use the same mechanism to want to hold up Nigeria. And the way saying it is that, yes, maybe hunger may be part of it. You know, by the time all of us are crippled, businesses are crippled, and so on and so forth, that some people who are more interested in power don't care achieving their objective. So, and that is giving a lot of people serious concern now. But having said that...
But if I may just chip in there, yes. Lagos is not like that. People are making progress in Lagos. People leave their villages, they go there, they make progress. In fact, most of the Western states. Mm-hmm. So it may not be a very, very good example.
No, but at the same time, the political power in Lagos, 20-something million persons, was held strongly by one man. But going to how to deal with our issues, the guy who was online talked about leaders being proactive. Proactivity is critical to leadership. Where are you going with? You sought for power, where are you going with it? What's the vision? What are you looking at? The money this government has spent trying to prevent protest, trying to contain the protest. What has been damaged? The money. The money that has been spent in the palliative that we don't see, we don't see anywhere, but if they tell you the kind of budget that has gone into the palliative, you'll see that, come, if we had sat down from the beginning to look at the fuel subsidy issue and so on, and then you see these other dimensions, we could have gone a bit more softly. So, moving forward.
Exactly.
Moving forward, Mr. President, I wish we can be a bit more proactive. Nigerians, they've come out, they've spoken, and some people have even given their life. They give their. Listen to the one of the videos said, why do I have to stay home and die? Rather, I will stay in the street, knowing that I'm fighting the battle and dying on the street. A lot of Nigerians are dying on the street. I am National Party Chairman of ADC. Within the last 2 months, I've been going from one state to the other, and so on. And what I see there, you go to our mortuaries, they are full. You go to the hospitals, people cannot even pay their bills. You go to most homes, people cannot afford to get out. That's the situation. And I know that the APC, they have more membership than ADC. Therefore, their members, both at the state level and the world level, should be giving them enough information of what is happening within the localities, and so on. Now, on the positive side, the local government autonomy, which I praise the Supreme Court, the judiciary for. I think it's the good work and good thoughts of the Attorney General. Building any nation must start from the grassroots. Let's take power to the grassroots. Let people who are in Abuja stop playing this Lord of the Manor. Take power to the grassroots. So I appreciate the Supreme Court and the judiciary and the Attorney General done a good job. We should work more on that. Nigerian politicians, work more on that. Take power to the local government, and as a matter of fact, to even the smallest group that can function. Because you check the American system. Apart from some cities can compete with nations. City of New York is like one of the fifth. If you look at it as a nation in terms of wealth.
California.
And so on. State of California and different cities. I bet you that the city of, the local government of Onitsha, if it's well empowered, and that's why at times some of our governors are part of the issues. If the city of Onitsha is left alone and then proper election is allowed to happen there, within the next 8 years, the mayor of Onitsha will challenge the governor of Anambra State and possibly start to challenge the presidency. So on a note again, I mean, the protesters didn't say that, but that's why I'm also pushing for the players themselves, the political parties, and the people who somehow benefited from the system to sit down and look at what can create wealth for our people. If we hold on to power and cripple everybody, it doesn't. Prosperity will not be kind to you.
When you talk in terms of creating wealth for our people, you just mentioned something that if the monies that have allegedly been employed in trying to contain the protests and trying to stop it, if it was well channeled, Nigerians, of course, would have benefited more. And maybe some of the reasons for this protest would even have been handled. And I was just thinking, how can we, I mean, you're a politician, so let me ask like a novice, how can we get to the conscience of our politicians so that they can begin to think the people instead of themselves? Because in the midst of the hunger, even after Nigeria was declared the poverty capital of the world, they carried on as if nothing was amiss, buying SUVs that they do not need. A man who has 10 Jeeps wants to buy another one. He doesn't really need it. And if they must buy, must it be the one of 160 million? Will it fly? It can only drive on the road. So how can we get to the conscience of our politicians? What can make them begin to think Nigerians?
I'll tell you something. Somebody who won an election under ADC has been threatening that the ADC as a political party is supporting the protest, and him as somebody who is on the seat doesn't support it, and the national chairman is not taking permission from him, and so on and so forth.
Is it the man that moved to APC?
No.
Okay.
But then you imagine, take permission from you, and you are a member of ADC, and then the opposition party cannot now speak against what is happening wrongly in government. Why? Because he's sitting comfortable. They made him the chairman of customs.
Mm.
They made
a juicy committee.
They made him chairman of customs.
Should it be about the juice or the service?
They made him should it be about the juice or the service? Because he's chairman of the customs, he's threatening Chief Mosu because I'm saying, Mr. President, listen to Nigerians. And as an opposition leader, I will not support anything that goes against the Nigerian nation. And I will do everything to ensure that ADC takes over a government. Because ADC, for the last 20 years, we've talked about national transformation and leading properly.
It's okay. At this point, Chima, you said the president is not listening. Who do you think should talk to him now? People like Professor Wole Soyinka, that he has, said so many good things about, named the road in Abuja, National Theatre, the Oba of Lagos, the Oni of Ife,
which of the eminent persons?
But who should talk to him?
And like I said,
the
what
Council
can touch
of
their
State,
conscience?
yes. Who should talk? Because we need a way forward. We need to move forward from here. So who can we call on these people that are close to the president, or who the president can listen to, to talk to him on what needs to be done for the country to move forward? Because whether we like it or not, whether the protesters, are on the streets, the police are there or not, there are a number of businesses that are not functioning properly the way they should, because people are afraid, that they may be attacked, and all. The economy has slowed down for some days, even though it's picking up in some places, but definitely it has impact.
Terverr, not even for some days. The economy has slowed down in the last 9 years.
Madam, would you believe that your assumption that politicians have conscience is quite gracious of you to assume that there's consciences? That assumption in itself shows how gracious and magnanimous you are. Some people out there, including this person, is not that magnanimous to look at our politicians with all that is going on and assume that that thing that pricks the conscience still pricks their own. I don't think it works. There's a book that is yet to be released called The Heart of a Public Servant. And by the mercies of God, when that book is released, you will see what goes on and how badly damaged our politicians are. My argument is that before you kill, something needs to die in you before you can take the life of another. Before you can cause pain, you need to be in pain yourself. Our politicians are damaged, and then they can only cause damage. Let's move away from that kind of philosophical to talk about who do we think should talk to them. The assumption also that they still have ears is also quite gracious and magnanimous. I think that it was, I can't remember who it's talked about now, but one of the things I'm going to promise Nigerian government is this: the protesters will leave the streets soonest. The protesters will leave the streets.
After the 10 days or before the 10 days?
They will leave the streets soonest. I can't guarantee the timeline, but I know that we will leave the streets soonest. But then when we leave the streets and our demands are not met, people who are not like us will enter the streets. And this is the usual people that government likes listening to. When moderate voices are communicating, the government does not listen. It's only when it starts ringing out in the bullets that people will listen. There was a simmering discontent in the middle belt, in the south that was ignored. And it cost years and years of amnesty. When we had years and years of militancy, it's only when they started doing something that the government listened. Things were simmering up north, in the northeast, people did not listen until things are simmering up now in the middle belt. People are not. In fact, it has now almost all parts of not almost all parts of Nigerians, including the people who are averse to protesting, including people in the north who are culturally. Again, you need to see what has happened. Because the culture of the north is anti-protest.
Conservative.
The very conservative. People who are this conservative to be this amenable to this kind of thing. You see what has happened. So I think that it is only when they feel threatened that they will act. For now, the president feels comfortable in Aso Rock. The handlers feel comfortable. They think that after the 10 days of noise-making, they will go back and continue with lives. But I'm going to assure them we will go back. And when the moderate voices are unable to talk about this, extreme voices are going to step in. And I think that Nigerian government has...
We hope it doesn't get there, honestly.
We do hope, but you know that this is usually... It's not rocket science. I know that you have responsibility to your viewers, but this is social science. That once people are in pain and hungry, and you don't allow them to express it in a way that they can, you don't allow for dialogue that you talk about, that others may not be that... They don't want all of these things. People are dying, people are hungry, people are frustrated. And the best they can do, they've done it. Even to risk themselves, risk their lives to come and protest. And after the protest, nothing tangible. And then you now expect that everybody... Now, when you talk about peace, what kind of peace are you talking about? Because I hear them, let us make peace, dialogue. Is it the peace of the graveyard?
Chima, I think that we pray very much that it does not get there. And we believe that our leaders, the president, the governors, all the leaders, the National Assembly members, Houses of Assembly members have been listening to all the analysis on the different media. They have also listened to some of the protesters. Let's pray that they will take something away from what is happening and they will use it to mend the cracks. They will use it to mend all that have been battered and destroyed and give Nigerians hope and peace again. Renewed hope. Let there be renewed hope. Thank you so much, Chief Ralph Mosu, for coming on the program, State of the Nation. Thank you, Chima Christian. It was nice having you on the program. And my name is Uju Ejeye.
Yes, and we also thank Vince Onyekwelu, the former British police officer who joined us virtually. He's off now. But please stay safe. Think Nigeria, act Nigeria. I am Terverr Tyav.